Thank you to everyone who's already tuned in for our upcoming community conversation on the updates to the solo program. We will begin at 5:30 p.m. Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening to learn more about our solo program in the school district, some of the updates that have been put in place for K to 5, and kind of this whole process of how we're going to manage going from remote 2.0 to in-person learning and some of the decisions that families will make as we go throughout this process. What we're going to do in today's presentation is we are going to share with you an update on K to 5, an update on 6 to 12, make sure we all understand the pathways and decisions that we have to make and timelines. And then we will address some frequently asked questions that we've gotten over the past couple days. And then we will open up. Dan and Aaron are here with me again to help read through the questions that you submitted earlier or would submit live during this presentation today. I just want to clarify that this presentation and this conversation is solely and is strictly about the solo program. So when we take a look at questions, the questions that we're going to be answering today and focused on are questions related to the solo program. We'll have another community conversations. I haven't publicly announced it yet, but another community conversations that will be held next week. So let's go ahead. The slides have been shared with you on the screen. We'll share them with you via email on Monday or earlier if possible, but let's go ahead and get started. So you may have seen these graphics. We're going to start with K to 5 as we talked about. You may have seen these graphics, and this is the big picture overview, and I'm going to talk about the big picture overview and then break it down to make sure we get into the details of each of them. So as you could see, the green box, those are for students that are currently in the solo program. So K to 5, this would mean that you're in our solo program, Lincoln Learning. If you want to remain in that program, if you want to remain in that Lincoln Learning solo program, there's nothing you need to do. You will continue on in that solo program. There's no surveys to fill out, no forms to complete. You are done. You're just going to continue on, and you can log off right now if that's what you want to do, because that's all you have to do to remain in the program. If you're saying, hey, I'm on my September 21st, the school district's reopening, it's going to have in-person instruction. We want our child or children to be back in school. There was a form that was sent out via email yesterday. And again, all of these emails can be found on our website, strongnet.org/restart. You go there, find my email. There's a form there. All you say is, hey, my child is enrolled in solo. I want them to return and be ready to attend school on September 21st. Submit your child's name, one submission for each child, and then you'll be good to go. And on September 21st, we'll be ready to welcome you back to in-person school. The third option is this dotted line over here. The third option for students currently in the solo program is that if you still want to get your instruction virtually and not return to school, but you're not completely satisfied with Lincoln Learning, you can go to Solo 2.0, which is the new enhanced and updated version of Solo that sent an email we'll talk about today. But you do have to complete the enrollment request. That's been sent out twice now. It was sent out last Friday, September 4th, in an email. It was sent out yesterday in an email. On that same link, you submit your interest there. For K to 5 students, it's due by Monday, September 14th. Get that in, and you will stay virtual. We'll just transition you from Lincoln Learning and Solo to Solo 2.0. So that's the plan of attack if your child is currently in Solo. If your child has been in Remote Learning 2.0, your options are over here in the blue boxes. So again, you have that option to enroll in Solo 2.0 as I just described. Submit your request or to enroll by September 14th, and then you will be enrolled and ready to go. If you want to, if you're in Remote 2.0 right now and you want your child to transition to in-person learning on September 21st, again, there's nothing you need to do for this option. We've got your child's name on the list. They've been assigned a class. We are good to go. They will just transition to in-person on the week of September 21st. So that's the big picture overview. Let's talk a little bit about the details. So again, for the elementary, we have two programs that will be running. The first one is the original program. That's where our students are already enrolled in Solo. They are provided their curriculum and courses through Lincoln Learning. This is an asynchronous program. Again, this means that students are watching videos, reading content, self-pacing their instruction. There's not a live teacher that's working with them at any time. They have a student learning advocate which helps support and guide and make sure that technically things are working. But that's the program. That's the original Solo program, Lincoln Learning. And so that's an option students that are already enrolled in can continue with. The second option is the Solo 2.0 program. Again, this is our new version for K to 5. It's going to be predominantly asynchronous, and we'll talk a lot more about what this looks like. It will be facilitated with Strongsville City Schools teachers, Strongsville City Schools curriculum, and it will be supplemented with live instruction, 30 minutes of live instruction each day, as well as we're working on developing a video library of our teachers teaching to support asynchronous learning at home. So again, we'll get into the details of 2.0 here in a minute. So let's kind of go through that flow chart and add a few more talking points. So again, my child is currently in Solo. They want to continue in Solo. There's nothing that you need to do. Your child will continue in the Solo program through the end of the first semester. That's through December 17th. And later on this fall, we'll send you a survey saying, hey, in January when we return from winter break, Do you want to continue in solo, or do you want to return to school? So again, nothing you need to do if you're currently in solo and want to remain in solo. If you are in solo and want to move to in-person learning, again, you need to submit the request form no later than Friday, September 11th. If we receive your request to leave solo and go in person after the September 11th, 4 p.m. deadline, it will not be approved. Again, the reason for this strict deadline is we also have social distancing limits inside of our classrooms, and we need to make sure that we have enrollment set so when kids come back on September 21st, we still can maintain 5 feet of social distancing based on the number of students that are in the class. And as we've said throughout, if you were enrolled in solo and come back, we cannot guarantee a spot for your child in their classroom or in their building. That's what we want to do, and we'll make every effort to make that happen, but there may be some few instances where that may not occur. And then your child will return for in-person learning on September 21st. So what if your child's currently in solo or remote 2.0 and they want to go to this new option of solo 2.0? Again, as we talked about, click on that survey, complete it no later than Monday, September 14th by 4 p.m. We get a question a lot, well, what if I change my mind later? Or what if I miss the deadline? For this deadline, we will review it on a case-by-case basis to see what is possible, but we would like everybody to do their best and get this completed by Monday at 4 p.m. And don't worry, if you've already completed this form, you know, I looked earlier today, we've had a good number of elementary students and secondary already complete this form. So if you've already done that, don't worry about it. You're good to go, and your child will be enrolled in Solo 2.0. And Solo 2.0 will begin the week of September 28th. So over the next 2 weeks, you will continue to complete your solo coursework in LinkedIn Learning, excuse me, or you will complete your remote learning 2.0 work with your teachers. Even on that week of the 21st, where some students will come back, there will still be asynchronous work posted, and that will be completed as well. So the 28th is when we'll welcome our students to Solo 2.0. So let's talk again. This is just reiterating what was in the email, some specifics about Solo 2.0. So it's going to be facilitated and overseen by Strongsville City Schools teachers. Those will be selected once we see how many students are enrolled. But please note that it's highly likely that your child will not get their teacher that they have now. We are simply saying, for example, as you can see, we're going to have no more than 25 students in K-3 classes, no more than 30 in 4 to 5. These are similar class cap guidelines we use for in-person school. And we're going to say, okay, we have 48 first graders that signed up for Solo 2.0. We now need to get 2 teachers that could teach first grade. We're going to hopefully focus and find teachers currently teaching first grade to provide this instruction. But we'll find those teachers, but it's with as many teachers, we average 16 to 17 teachers per grade level. So the likelihood that your child would get the teacher that they had if they were in remote 2.0 is not likely. So what will happen, you sign up, the teacher is selected, we share with you, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so will be your Solo 2.0 teacher, and he or she will give you access to their Google Classroom for remote 2.0 students, just like you have access to your teacher's classroom now. And you'll be required to complete all work and submit all work, just like you are in remote 2.0, for the 4 core subject areas: English language arts, mathematics, social studies, and science. And then, as we talked about earlier, we will supplement this asynchronous learning and the video library that we're working to build with 30 minutes of daily live instruction. And this daily live instruction will be coordinated between the teacher and the students in the class. So it'll be between 8:30 and 4 p.m., which is the typical elementary day. And it will be facilitated during a time where the teacher is not previously engaged with students in their classroom. So it may be from 8:30 to 9, it may be from 3:30 to 4, it may be during the middle of the day whenever recess time is, or it may be when students have their special time, or encore classes, art, music, PE. So that will be worked out, as well as the schedule. The teacher on a weekly basis may say, hey, on Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to do live instruction for English language arts. Wednesday, math. Thursday, social studies and science. And Friday is going to be a support day. So he or she will dictate that schedule of how that live instruction will go based on the content that's being provided. Also, an item of note is in the upper elementary levels, we do departmentalize sometimes. So there may be some instances where your child may have a few separate teachers to facilitate math or ELA or social studies and science. And as I alluded to in the email, or stated in the email and alluded to in my earlier comments, we are focused on those 4 core content areas at this point in time. So there will not be any direct instruction or asynchronous requirement for art, music, or physical education. The difference between Solo, the Lincoln Learning version, and Solo 2.0 is that since it is facilitated by Strongsville City School staff and using our curriculum, the curriculum only, we have nice breaks at each semester. So students must remain in Solo 2.0 once they're enrolled for at least a trimester. Just like we said earlier, prior to those trimesters, you'll have to say whether you want to continue or whether you want to return to in-person learning. And just as an FYI, the first trimester ends November 13th. Another popular question we get is, hey, what if the district has to go back into remote 2.0? Do I stick with Solo 2.0 or can I go back to my remote 2.0 classroom? So the answer is that you may be permitted to go back. If you decide you would like to, and there's room and we wouldn't exceed classroom caps, absolutely you can do that during that period of remote 2.0. If you feel, hey, it's best for stability and consistency for my child, we're just going to stick with Solo 2.0. We will continue to offer those during any points of remote 2.0 throughout the school year. So that kind of gives you an overview of Solo 2.0. And here's kind of that the last criteria is my child's currently in remote 2.0 and wants to return to in-person learning. There's nothing that you need to do. Your child is ready and to come back on the 21st. We're ready to welcome him or her back. And so you are good to go there. So again, just to recap, our options for K-5, current Solo students can remain, they can return, or they can move to Solo 2.0 and fulfill the forms that I talked about. If students are currently in remote learning 2.0, they can go to Solo 2.0 or they can come in person on September 21st. So if you have any questions about K-5 and the Solo 2.0 options or programs or the logistics of how do I select, now would be a good time to submit your questions to the form that was sent out yesterday. And later on in the conversation, we can answer those questions for you. So I'm going to grab a drink of water here, and then we are going to transition to grades 6 to 12. So for 6 to 12, similar concept, just fewer options. So for students in grades 6 to 12 that are currently in Solo, they can remain in Solo. There's nothing that they need to do. And they will continue on for the rest of the first semester. If they want to transition to in-person, there's that form. We've had a number of students that say, hey, I'm ready to come back to in-person learning. Fill out that form that you want to withdraw from Solo, and we will be ready for you to return to the middle school and high school on September 21st. Again, current Solos in those green categories, that's where the options that you have. For students currently in remote 2.0, very similar options. You can enroll in Solo, and you need to complete that by tomorrow at 4 p.m. Same survey that was sent out on Friday, September 4th, same week ability to make that decision. So that needs to be completed. Or if you're ready to come back, there's nothing you need to do, no additional requirements. We're ready to welcome you back at the middle school or high school on the 21st. So again, just a reminder, and this is an important point that we want everybody to understand. We've communicated it thoroughly and frequently earlier, but want to make sure folks understand, especially those coming from a remote 2.0 setting. The Solo program for grades 6 to 12 will continue to be an asynchronous program with purchased curriculum provided through Edmentum. So again, there is not a live teacher that's going to help support. It is an online platform, videos, reading, self-pacing. If you feel that that is applicable and meets the educational needs of your child, please continue to be enrolled in that program or meets the health needs of your family. This is the program that we're offering as a school district, but please be aware that it is asynchronous learning and will not recreate the remote 2.0 experiences that they may have had for those that have been a part of that experience so far. So again, breaking down the categories. I'm in Solo, I want to continue in Solo. Nothing that you need to do. Your child will continue in solo for the remainder of the first semester through December 17th. And in the fall, again, just like K-5, a survey will be sent and you will decide whether to continue in solo for the second semester and the rest of the 2021 school year, or whether you will return to in-person learning. Now, if you're currently in solo and you want to return to in-person learning, again, submit the form request no later than tomorrow at 4 p.m. If you miss this deadline, you will not be allowed to come into in-person learning. You'll be required to finish solo for the first semester. And one thing to note is that when you're leaving solo and coming into in-person, we're going to make every attempt possible to make sure the same courses that you're in Edmentum or Edgenuity, as you transition back into the school, that you will have the same or similar classes. And again, as we've talked about in prior communications, your grades, any graded work will completed in solo will transfer. I know I didn't have this specific bullet point on the elementary slides, but the same idea is there. Any grades that were collected in solo for any level will be transferred if you come to in-person. And again, you will be ready for you to start on in the week of September 21st. So if your child's currently in remote learning 2.0 and wants to enroll in solo, enrollment form needs to be submitted no later than Friday at 4 p.m. After that deadline, just like elementary, will be on a case-by-case basis. Now here, when we look at the opposite way, what if there were courses that you took in remote learning 2.0, but that's not available based on the course offerings in Edmentum? We typically haven't done this in the past, but because these are unique times, we are permitting students to attend in-person learning for just courses that may not be available on the Edmentum platform. So again, I know some of our families are having students stay home for a variety of reasons. So if you feel comfortable that, hey, a couple of these classes or one of these classes that can't be recreated in a virtual environment, I would be okay as a parent if my child went to school for that class. We are going to afford that option for our students if that class cannot be recreated or available through our online provider. And again, if you've already completed this survey to enroll in solo, there's nothing else you need to do. We've got you listed and you will be ready to go. And again, you'll be ready to go. New enrollments into solo will start the week of, just like K-5, will start the week of September 28th. You will complete asynchronous work for the next 2 weeks, and solo will be up and running for you the week of the 28th. And finally, I'm in remote 2.0 for middle school and high school. I want to come back to school. Nothing you need to do. We're ready for you to return on September 21st. And so just to kind of review again, current solo students, they have the options to remain in solo or return to school. Current remote 2.0 students, they have the option to enroll in solo or return in school. Same options, different pathway for their current starting point. But that's the solo options for 6 to 12. So what I'd like to do now is, based on emails, communications, feedback we've received, there's been some popular questions that have been submitted. And so what I wanted to do today is to share with you the answers to those questions. And then we will take it, we will open it up, and Aaron will help facilitate the questions as well as Dan. So again, if you have questions specific to 6 to 12, please start submitting those now. Maybe I'll answer some of those here in the next few slides. So one of the questions I get, it's a compliment. For the majority of our families, they've really been satisfied and complimentary of how we've facilitated remote learning 2.0 in our district, the engagement between the teachers and students, and so why do we not continue to offer remote 2.0 for students that don't want to return in person? Why do they have to go to the solo program? So we have to understand that we now have teachers that have students in their classrooms as of September 21st, if all the data continues to trend as it is now. And so we have to consider, how do we staff this? How do we truly engage in a remote 2.0 experience where now teachers are not just solely doing that, they have in-person learning, their traditional kind of in-person learning to go through. So we have to start with the understanding that to truly facilitate and engage students in Remote 2.0, what you've seen, what you've loved, what you've praised us about, you need a dedicated teacher to do that. And as we take a look at the staffing that we have, almost all of our teachers are going to come back and be able to provide in-person instruction for our students. So based on that fact, it leads to some challenges that we have with providing that. So let's first take a look at the high school. So providing Remote Learning 2.0 at the high school is just not feasible because of the vast number of course offerings. If we wanted to say every course that we offer is available via Remote 2.0, we do not have the staff, or would we be able to hire the staff to make that work? So we couldn't accomplish that goal at the high school. So let's take a look at the middle school and the elementary school. Based on the current projected numbers for solo enrollment, based on the kids that are currently in solo for middle school and elementary, as well as people that have enrolled moving forward, it would require us to hire a sizable amount of teachers. Going back to that first bullet point, that I'm not going to be effective as a teacher if I'm managing kids in person and kids remotely at the same time. And I have to take care of those responsibilities of in-person learning. And so we'd have to hire an additional teacher to truly engage and facilitate Remote Learning 2.0 that we've all come to know in the past few weeks. However, as I said, our teachers are all coming back to teach in person. So where do those teachers to facilitate Remote 2.0 come from? We would have to hire new staff, and that staff would be long-term substitutes. And those long-term substitutes would not have the training, the experience, and to provide the educational services and supports that you expect, that we expect, and that we've come to know of what it means to get a Strongsville City Schools education. So as we take a look at facilitating Remote Learning 2.0 while also operating in in-person instruction, it just becomes a practical challenge and a hiring need that is not going to fulfill the expectations that we have or you have for students. So that is why the district is not moving forward to continue to operate in both Remote 2.0 and in-person learning at the same time. So that leads to the next question. Okay, Cameron, if we maybe can agree to that and understand that as I've shared with some folks, when we talk about significant staffing, we're talking about, not only the challenges with hiring new staff that are long-term substitutes and the training, but millions, over $1 million of expense to make this happen. So if we can agree that that is a challenge and maybe understand and the rationale behind that, then the next question becomes, why doesn't the district just live stream all of its classrooms so for students not returning to in-person instruction? I understand some other school districts have done this, some parochial school districts have done this, and we have selected. We're not saying we can't do it. We're not saying that anybody's refusing to do it in terms of staff or in terms of administration. We have made a conscious choice after having multiple conversations within our work groups throughout the summer, with our administrators, with our teaching staff, and ultimately as superintendent, I've made the decision that we're going to do the best we can in a variety of options. But if we want to be successful and we want to be good, there's a certain capacity that we have to be successful. And we are not going to add at this point in time the live streaming of all of our classes. So why has that decision been made? Again, I go back to the point that I made earlier, that to truly facilitate an engaging experience from remote learning for students at home, we need a dedicated teacher. We cannot have that same level of engagement with a teacher teaching in-person classes as well as students that are live streaming. I also think that we need to have a realistic foundation as to what this experience would be like for our students at home. So as I've said in some of my emails, I have personally taught at the college level in this structure where I had students that were live in front of me, and I had students in another city that were virtually participating. It is challenging to say the least. And it may work at a college level based on the structure and more of a lecture type format. But as you take a look at the interaction of our classrooms and how they're structured and how students are working, What my concern is we are going to create an experience that's not going to be satisfactory moving forward. So what technology do we have available to do this? We have web cameras. Every classroom has a webcam with a microphone built in. So in practice, what this would look like is, as a teacher, I would take my Chromebook, or I would take the webcam from my Chromebook or the webcam that I have, and I would point it towards where I think I would be predominantly in the classroom and the whiteboard. And then I would teach. The video quality is not going to be great. The sound quality is not going to be great. And in a lot of our classrooms, the idea that a teacher is going to stand up in front of the board and be solitary in that position and just teach is not what happens. It's not what occurs. There's discussion, there's engagement, there's coaching, there's facilitation. And unfortunately, that cannot always be recreated in a remote 2.0 setting. And we need our teachers to focus on being successful on one delivery method at a time, so they can be successful with those kids. So in terms of how this would work, if I'm in the classroom and my teacher is focused on me, the kids at home participating remotely may hear me, may not hear me, may see me, may not see me as I go through, and I'm not going to be able to take the time and spend the time engaging my students that are remote, which is a disservice to them. At a time in the lesson when I want to engage with my students remotely and make sure that they're okay and touch base, I'm not paying the attention that my students in class deserve or require. And so that's why the decision has been made that at this point in time, based on the focus of what we're doing, we are not going to live stream our classes. Instead, we're working, starting in K-5, of creating a video library to support our students to see instruction throughout Solo 2.0. So hopefully that gives some context as to why the decision has been made for our district to not live stream our classrooms. One of the other frequently asked questions we get is, okay, how are you going to provide educational supports for students that when we return that will likely need to be quarantined because of either testing positive for COVID or being exposed to COVID? This also lines up with the same services as we're providing in Solo 2.0 and we'll provide for all of our students. So students that are quarantined will follow a model similar to Solo 2.0, as I just said. They'll access the Google Classroom. They'll also have live check-ins with teachers to support that asynchronous learning when the teacher is not engaged in instruction with his or her class. So as we take a look at what we're trying to recreate with Solo 2.0 for our youngest learners, and what we're trying to help support for our students that are quarantined, they mirror one another and provide similar levels of support that we feel we can do successfully, especially as we begin this journey together of in-person and Solo going on simultaneously. So again, the moving on, that leads to another question. Okay, why are you not offering Solo 2.0 for middle school and high school students? You know, that kind of sounds like a nice option. So the first point is the reason we changed from our Solo platform at the elementary level is because, you know, on Tuesday we were notified that they're at capacity. They're not accepting any new enrollments. And so we needed to come up with a different plan. We chose a plan that we thought would be a nice move forward for what our parents were requesting, rather than finding another completely online provider, same kind of idea, but different from Lincoln Learning. So we moved to try and provide that middle ground: Strongsville City School teacher, Strongsville City School curriculum, asynchronous with the balance of some live learning, being able to create a video library. That this was, you know, major enhancements to what we were able to do because of that provider being Lincoln Learning not being an option moving forward. You know, so why not expand that right now to the middle school and high school? It's because I want to make sure that we can do this successfully. I want to take this small step first of saying, let's work with our youngest learners. We had more concerns and feedback from our K-5 families than we have from our 6 to 12, just based on the feedback we're having. Not that everybody loves the Solo program at 6 to 12, I'm not stating that, but it was more manageable because kids have the basic foundational skills at that level to work through a very an asynchronous program. Not so true in a K-5 level. It doesn't work for everybody, especially depending on parental support that may be available at home based on your work schedules. So we wanted to start with our youngest learners that need the foundational skills, that need that synchronous live component, that need to see a teacher teaching through the development of the video library. And so that's why we started in K-5. Once we learn, what's working, what's not working, we may look to explore to expand this to the middle school. If the need is still there and the current conditions with COVID are still prevalent, we will take a look at expanding that. But we wanted to start small, start K-5. That's our area of focus and greatest area of need right now to support our students that need a virtual platform. And then we can possibly expand from there if needed. And so those are some of the frequently asked questions that have been provided that I wanted to share just globally. And then Aaron and Dan, I know Dan, you're sorting some of the questions. Aaron, you're going to help to ask some of the questions. So I'm going to ask you to come online here and share anything that you may have gotten through the questions that have been submitted.
All right. Let's start with busing. What do they need to do if they are going to go back into the building and they had been a solo parent? Do they need transportation? Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. So no, you do not need to do anything for busing. So if you're currently in solo and you're planning on coming back, busing will be provided. You'll be in our system as a student that requires transportation. We have plenty of transfer, excluding Chapman, where there needs to be an opt-in. So if you're a Chapman parent, just contact transportation and let them know that you're coming back. Other than that, we have plenty of room for our students that will be returning. And on September 14th, so on Monday, we will release in your PowerSchool Unified Classroom Parent Portal busing information, routes, pickup time. So just take a look there and you'll get your busing information.
Can you speak to the decision why it was made to not provide the encore or specials classes for students in Solo 2.0?
So again, it goes back to that last point of we want to start with the core classes. We want to start getting that foundationally solidified. And then we can take a look at expanding to the encore classes at a later date. So it was nothing more than let's start with the core areas and build from there.
Okay. A lot of questions about the 30 minutes of live instruction. Is that actual teaching? Is it a check-in? I know you talked about it may be some math, some ELA, or the teacher may design it differently. Can you provide any additional details as to what that 30 minutes a day may look like, and also why just 30 minutes a day?
So to answer the first question, the expectation is that it will be live instruction. So, to give an example, and I think I said this earlier in the conversation, a teacher may state, they may break it up however they want. In that 30 minutes, they say, okay, I'm going to do 15 minutes of math and then 15 minutes of ELA, or break it up and have, this day we're going to talk about math for the next couple days. So it will be live instruction based on student needs. There may be some of that time where it's, small or not small group in terms of breakout, but in terms of small group questions or feedback or support, or let's go back and here's a lesson I taught you a couple days ago. It seems like there's some questions or concerns. Let's solidify that aspect of it. So it will be live instruction. Me being online saying, okay, here's the whiteboard. Let's go through, the math lesson for the day. That's the expectation of what it will be. In terms of why a half hour, we've got to look at what is feasible inside of an elementary teacher's day when they are not teaching students. So again, we need teachers to be engaged, focused on our Solo 2.0 students. As you take a look at the elementary schedule, those are the blocks of time that they have available to be able to do that throughout the day. And so that's why a half hour was selected.
Okay, can you talk about gifted services or IEP services, how those might look with remote, Solo 2.0?
So for Solo 2.0, once we see students that are enrolled, we will determine, we will get more into the details of what additional services we will be able to provide online. So the gifted, we will take a look at students identified and gifted. As you know, we do provide in grades 3 through 5 gifted services in mathematics, specific math classes. And we have we've also I have worked with our intervention specialists. We will have intervention specialists that will be a part of Solo 2.0, that will have a caseload of students that will work with those students to provide specially designed instruction. So if I'm a student that has an IEP, per the IEP, I will get, if it's the case, I will get my core instruction from the classroom teacher. If I require specially designed instruction above and beyond that, we will have an intervention specialist that will be assigned to help support that. And if you have a remote learning plan where some of those services need to be provided in person, again, those are decisions that are made with the IEP team, and those can still be applicable in this environment.
Okay, can you talk about ensuring that you're still going to be able to provide the 5 feet social distancing when we come back, and especially if there are students from Solo 1.0 coming back? Are you looking at the configurations of that to ensure that the distance is still what it needs to be?
Yeah, so on Monday, I will share via email with all of our families our comprehensive responsible restart plan. And I'll also have a community conversation on Thursday to go through it and make sure everybody's comfortable and understands all the procedures that will follow. But in that plan, what will also be shared is level specific guidance on social distancing, how we'll handle lunch, recess, entrances, student arrival, drop off, all of that. So my point of stating this is if there's any classrooms where we are not able to maintain the 5 feet social distancing, those will be specifically stated on there. At this point in time, we will have some classrooms at the high school and at the middle school that may not be able to achieve the 5-foot social distancing. But I have, at this point, all elementary classrooms will be able to have 5 feet social distancing. Please remember that social distancing is measured from person to person. So if you think from the center of my head to the center of the next person's head is a 5 feet distance. So I want everybody to be understanding that if you see a classroom or come in and see a picture of a classroom, we have larger desks that the desk may span 3 feet, but it's the 5 feet social distancing is from person to person. And that will be the social distancing that is there. Aaron, I think there was another part that I'm not answering.
Just with regard to the solo students, are you considering that, if they're switching back to the classroom?
Yes, so we have enrollment levels at tracking at all of the levels. So what we're doing right now is we're saying which students were in remote 2.0 and are going to solo. We're factoring them out of the calculation, and which students were in solo that are coming in person, adding them in. We have class caps at all of our elementary buildings that we know we cannot go over, because if we go over, we will not be able to maintain the 5 feet social distancing. So since we do not have finalized numbers and we won't get those until Monday, I cannot guarantee. I have no concerns with the 5 feet social distancing. The challenge is going to be, can all of the students that are currently in solo at the elementary level come and have a spot in their home building? That's going to be the question that'll be answered early next week.
All right. Can you talk, this is more at the secondary level, but can you justify or explain, if you can, inequities with regards to honors classes at the middle school not being offered, as well as high school classes? Some of the AP classes aren't offered, extracurriculars or co-curriculars. Are they not able to do those? Orchestra, show choir, mock trial, things like that.
So in terms of what students in the solo program can do, I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, is that if there are classes that are not offered through the solo program, and you feel comfortable that your child would come into the school to have those classes, that's an option, and that would address that problem. In terms of co-curriculars, as we've shared in earlier communications, if you want to be a part of show choir, if you want to be a part of different groups, you need to just contact the director. There's so many unique circumstances. All of our directors, I've talked to all of them about this, or club advisors, they want as many kids to be engaged and involved as possible. Some of them are a little more challenging if you don't want to come into the school at all. Some of them are possible, so you just need to work with the directors. And in terms of the inequities, if you take a look at the comprehensive course catalog we have at the secondary level, I completely admit we can never recreate that through any online provider. We've done our best to attempt to find matching courses. If we continue to see themes of courses that are needed that our students can't get in a virtual environment, then we will problem solve that as we get the data and see. But as we take a look at, we are doing everything that we possibly can to create as equitable systems as we can between those that want to come to school and those that can't come to school. But the dilemma that we have created for ourselves is that we just don't have a basic curriculum at Strongsville High School. We have so many niche courses and AP honors courses that simply cannot be provided in the same way, the same course structure. So again, as we make choices, and I don't say this lightly because my goal is to always get everything we possibly can for all kids, but during these times we have to make choices that we feel are in the best interest of our families and our children. And when we make those choices, there's going to be positives and negatives to each of those choices. And it is just not feasible for us to recreate every in-person experience and every in-person course in a virtual platform.
All right, a couple questions about attendance and how that will look and when you need to log on if you do choose to do this solo 2.0. So how would we take attendance, and are you obligated to be on the computer from 8 to 4 or a given time?
No, so if we talk specifically about, like, let's just, the solo Lincoln Learning, the solo at the secondary level, attendance is taken by, participation, work completion, logging in, things of that nature. For 2.0, the only time you'd be required to be online is during the 30-minute live instruction component. So kind of, if you're currently in remote 2.0, your attendance is based on work completion or being present in the live Google Meets, and the same would be the case for solo 2.0. So if you take a look at Monday through Friday, if I'm on the Google Meet for the day, I will get credit for attendance. And if I complete the work, if I'm not on live for that time period and I complete the work and submit it, I will be counted as present. So the only time you would be counted as absent is if you're not logging onto the Google Meets and you're not doing the work. It would impact your attendance, and it would also impact your grade.
Okay, couple questions about if you do go back into the building and either the child hates it due to the mask wearing, or there's an outbreak, or a host of different scenarios, can you at that point elect to do the solo 2.0?
Yes, so what we've said on the slides and we'll continue to follow through on is that you can enroll in solo or solo 2.0 at any time. It will be done on a case-by-case basis. The reason we say a case-by-case basis, I don't want that to make anybody nervous that means that we're going to decline folks. We're going to do everything we can to enroll students. Case-by-case basis means we're going to take a look at the courses you're in, what point it is in the quarter or the semester, and talk to you and provide some guidance to you to say whether or not this is the right time to move, or just to make sure you understand that these are the courses and how this would impact your transcript or your grades, as there may not be a sister course or a partner course available through the online platform. At the elementary level, the only time we would have challenges of having students move from in-person to Solo 2.0 is if we're already at the class caps for that level and we need to find another teacher to be added. It just may take us a little bit of time to do that. So that gives a little more definition to what we mean by case-by-case basis.
All right. Can you walk us through, because quite a few comments are asking about if you have, for example, 50 fewer kids in the classroom because they're doing a Solo 2.0, wouldn't that free up, in essence, 2 teachers that could then do a remote 2.0 with them? So the number of students that are choosing to do remote, doesn't that equate to the number of teachers that could, in essence, teach a remote 2.0 style?
So here is the dilemma that we have. And I shared this and communicated this when we started the school year in remote 2.0. If we would have started the school year in person, absolutely the question that Aaron just asked would have happened. We would have said, in this grade level, just talk simple numbers. We have 50 less students in 3rd grade. I need 2 less teachers. Those 2 teachers would just completely facilitate, the virtual program, just like a remote 2.0 setting. But we started the year in remote 2.0. Students have met their teachers. They've built a relationship with their teachers, and families have as well. So the idea that we're going to say to a group of students, hey, we know you had Mrs. Lobb for the first 4 weeks of the school year, but Mrs. Lobb is now going to leave the classroom, and you 10 kids that are left are going to have you're only going to have these teachers. That becomes extremely difficult and just shifts the problem to another set of staff members. The other thing that we have to understand is that because at the elementary level, at the middle school and high school, it doesn't work out like that because the numbers are so large and we have so many kids. It's just diluted, and there's not enough to justify reducing a team or reducing a teacher at that level. And because we have 5 elementary schools, we could lose 50 kids in a grade level, but that only takes 10 kids down in each grade level, and that's not really going to impact class sizes to where we can consolidate sections. So we've got the practical aspect of it that it really doesn't work out that nicely because it's usually dispersed between all the buildings, and the hardship we would put on a separate group of students. And then the third thing just to consider is, even if we would say, okay, this teacher only has 5 kids left in his or her classroom, we can offer that. The concern that I would have is that we would set up another set of problems of inequities, perceived inequities between, we would be able to offer that for 1 grade level. And then we'd have 4 other grade levels that we would not be able to offer that for, whatever the difference is. It would not provide consistency in experiences within the program, within Solo 2.0. So, one of the things that we do have to look at, and we started this conversation with the elementary principals earlier this week, is once we get the Solo enrollment in, if class sizes dip and we've got large discrepancies, we've started setting some metrics and some conversation as to how we'll handle that. But it's not likely that we'll be able to see a decline in numbers significantly to justify that, or to justify taking those teachers away from the kids that they've been working with over the last month.
Okay, a few more questions here. Can you shed some light on what you think a typical day in Solo 2.0 might look like? So, for example, are they going to have access to Strongsville resources, Lexia, RazKids? What textbooks will they be using? Is it going to be like all worksheets to submit and print, those type of things?
So in Solo 2.0, you're going to have everything Strongsville City Schools for that grade level you would still have access to. So as Aaron mentioned, some of them, you would still have access to RazKids, to Lexia, to all of the workbooks that are there. So what you would be doing at home is what you would be doing if you were in school. our teachers are not creating a separate curriculum for our solo students. They are publicly posting their curriculum, their work, the assignments, all of that on Google Classroom, just like they are now. And then students would be able to access that. So for those families that are currently in Remote Learning 2.0, it will be a very similar experience with less live instruction than you're having now. So I'd be able to log on to my teacher's Google Classroom. I'll be able to see the work that is being assigned for the 4 core areas. And I, as a parent, can create a schedule with my child based on the due dates of how we're going to complete this work and how and when and we're going to submit the work. And then I'd have to be online, obviously, for those scheduled 30-minute live instructions or instruction time. So again, it may be a little harder to imagine for those that are coming from solo, but for those coming from Remote 2.0, same concept, same workload, same idea of just recreating asynchronously, what kids would be experiencing in person. And you'd follow the due dates as established by the teacher. But this would give you, as a family, the flexibility outside of the 30-minute live instruction to determine and plan how you're going to complete the work.
Okay, quite a few comments, I guess, questioning the need to make a decision prior to seeing the restart plan. So how can we be expected to make a decision prior to that being released? Can we wait until at least after the board meeting next week to make that decision? And again, how do we know what to expect in the building, and how can we make that decision right now since it's due tomorrow?
So my answer to that is that we need to be prepared as a school district, and we need to move forward. And the specifics, as we've said already, if you have concerns and if you have questions about that plan, you can enroll in solo at any time. We're asking you to enroll by September 14th so we can plan accordingly. If you as a family choose not to do that and you want to await, that is going to be a challenge for us in terms of our planning and getting teachers allotted. But that's an option that we've said it's a part of the plan, and you have the ability to do that. There is not going to be any change after the board meeting on Thursday in terms of our plan moving forward. The board has approved the plan of coming back, of the process of coming back, on the timelines. So in terms of changes that will occur after the board meeting based on topics that are on the board agenda, that's not going to be key decisions that are going to change the decisions that people have to make now. And in terms of the specifics, we will be sending out the restart guide on Monday. If there are specific things that are in there, you'll have that prior to making the decision. We've been public already. I want to also provide clarity that the responsible restart plan has already been communicated. It's just been communicated in different times, in different places, and this is just putting it all together. So as a parent, if I take a look at the big things that are on my mind, whether it's K-5 or 6-12, I need to think, am I comfortable in K-5 with my child coming back to a building with 300 to 500 other kids? Am I comfortable with them wearing masks all day? Am I comfortable with them having 5 feet of social distancing? Am I comfortable with them having all of their special classes and lunch in the classrooms? Am I comfortable with them having recess but having to wear masks while they're outside at recess because we cannot guarantee 6 feet of social distancing? Am I comfortable with the fact of the hand washing that's available, the hand washing in the classrooms that we have available, the mask policy? We have very clear procedures and guidelines about how we will report COVID cases, exposure, COVID clinics. Those are all pretty standard and dictated through the Board of Health. And in 6-12, same concept, but add the numbers. Am I comfortable? Elementary, the students are going to stay with their same cohort through the entire school day. They're not going to switch classes except for our students that are going to go to their gifted math class. At the 6 to 12 level, am I comfortable with my child coming back in a building of 1,200 students or 2,000 students at the high school and switching classes throughout the day, even though there'll be clear procedures and pathways for how students will move? So I'm not trying to make light or to gloss over, the importance of our plan, the importance of the details. If those details are important to you, yes, you can wait and sign up later in the week. But I think those are some of the big items that are critical and crucial, and the rest of it are procedural items that have been communicated already and will be consolidated in this document.
A little bit of confusion about the week of the 28th. So is it true that the 2.0 solo kids are starting a week later than everybody else, and won't that put them at a disadvantage? And is it truly a blended week, or is it an all-person week with regards to both in-person and solo?
So Solo 2.0 will not be behind anybody starting the week of the 28th because let me kind of go through the timeline. So in September 21st, if all data points trend in the similar direction as they're trending now, we will open for in-person learning, and it will be a phase-in week. It will be a phase-in week. The building principals will be sharing the schedules for those at the levels. But basically, students will be attending in-person school for 2 days, and they will be home for remote learning for the other 3 days, predominantly for the grade levels. So, and when students are in person for that week, yes, there's going to be some education, but a big part of the week is training for the procedures of being in the school, in the school. So we want smaller groups of kids, half of the kids at a time, to come in to talk about how we eat lunch, how we get on the bus, how we enter the building, how we walk in the hallways, how we change classes from one to another. So it's going to be a lot of breakdown of procedural items, and a lot of the work is going to be asynchronous as we get back going for the 28th. As of right now, if today was September 28th, kids that were attending school in person would be here 5 days a week, every day. Again, things change, right? And we have to see what the COVID risk level data is and the Board of Health data is that influences these decisions. But if today was the 28th, right now the plan is that everybody would come back to school on the 28th that is wanting to. So that pairs up with when our kids are back to school, we are focused solely on education and academics, and that's when our students in solo would continue, would start up. During that week of the 21st, the students will still be participating either in their solo program or remote learning 2.0. So they're not sitting there for a week just waiting for things to get up and going. They would be still with their classroom in remote 2.0 or still working in the solo program.
All right, here's an easy one. If you're a senior and you're doing solo, will you still be a graduate of Strongsville High School?
Yes, anybody in the solo program will be a graduate and graduate as a Strongsville High School student with a Strongsville High School diploma. And all other students, you're in our system. You are our students. You don't have to withdraw or re-enroll. You're all Strongsville City School students in the solo program.
Couple questions about returning. If you return to your current homeschool next year, are you guaranteed your homeschool next year? And if you go, you want to go back into full day kindergarten this year, are you guaranteed that spot?
So if you are in solo this year, yes, you will be able to go back to your home building in the next school year. So that is something we'll be able to make happen. If you are in full day kindergarten, at this point in time, we have plenty of availability in full day kindergarten. I haven't looked, I can't go from the top of my head, but we do have availability. So you would be able to have a spot. Whether that spot would be guaranteed at your home building right now, based on the numbers, most likely you would be able to go back to your home building. But again, with the other caveat we gave, there's no guarantee if you're coming from solo back in person that you would get the same teacher, same building, but that's our goal.
All right. Can you talk about, will there be any social emotional resources or learning focus with the 2.0, the Solo 2.0, and any asynchronous or supplemental resources for Encore courses for the Solo 2.0?
So in terms of the social emotional learning and support, that's something we can look at. Yes, we'll be able to provide that asynchronously. We'll be able to provide those resources, those supports, there'll also be still a classroom community with our students that are in the Solo program and Solo 2.0. So that can be embedded. Our teachers embed that in the work that they do. But we're going to start off, as I said, focusing on the core areas. But any part, you can't do that without focusing on integration of social emotional learning, forming a classroom community. That's all integrated as a part of that. Our elementary school counselors do a phenomenal job, have resources and are available as needed virtually for our solo students. And in terms of the encore areas, yes, as we get our legs under us a little bit and can move forward, we can definitely look at, if we're not able to add the live component to the special encore areas, we could definitely look at the asynchronous work that students can do at home.
If we have teachers that aren't coming back due to high risk, can't they teach the remote learning 2.0? Or can't teachers that are currently teaching just keep the kids they have that want to do remote and offer that 30 minutes a day with the students that they have currently that would like to stay home?
So let's start with the first part. The first question is, if we have teachers that cannot come back because of medical leave, can they facilitate? And the answer is yes, they can facilitate, but they would still facilitate it in the same way that the other programs are being facilitated. Again, for the same reason I talked about earlier, as to, what if we had sections reduced? It would be, the idea is right now we have very few teachers that are not returning to teach in person. So the number of teachers that are not returning would not even cover a grade level, most likely, let alone all of the kids in Solo 2.0. So it becomes that dilemma of, how do I offer it to one class and not all of the other classes? That becomes an equity issue again within the program. In terms of the second question, as to why do we not just have kids stay in their current classes and have the teacher facilitate this additional 30 minutes of instruction a day? We did talk about that. We problem solved. Aaron and I talked about that, and that was one of the topics that we took a look at. But ultimately, we made the decision that if we can build a classroom community with our Solo 2.0 students, if it could be facilitated by fewer teachers that could provide high quality support in this area, we could provide support to those teachers to, a smaller number of teachers than instead of every elementary school teacher in the district. That was what we thought would provide the greatest benefits and results for our students and their education and our ability to support that. And so that's why the decision was made to look at having fewer teachers with more students than just saying to teachers, you have to facilitate learning for all of your kids in your classroom, and then maybe there's one or two students that would just get that half hour of synchronous learning. So that's why we did problem solve it, but that's ultimately why we went with a smaller number of teachers.
Okay, and as we're getting close to the time here of an hour, I have two more questions
Sure.
that aren't going to be addressed, or two questions that are solely about the Solo. First one is the curriculum going to be available in a whole for parents to look at, or is it just going to be parsed out day to day? And then the second one is just more of a request to you. Can you repeat what they need to do to fill out a form? So if they filled it out for Solo, do they have to re-sign up to do Solo 2.0?
Gotcha. So, Aaron, I'm sorry. Can you repeat? Give me the reminder on the first one. I forgot the first one already.
Curriculum.
Curriculum. Thank you. So, curriculum is going to be so it's going to be no different than if you think back to in-person classes, if you think back to what remote 2.0 is going to be like. It's our Strongsville City Schools curriculum that's going to be available on a daily or weekly basis, however the teacher provides it, just like it would be just like it was last year when we had in-person learning, or just like it was in remote 2.0. So it's not something like some of the like the Lincoln Learning or the Edmentum. You may be able to see, okay, here's all of the curriculum. I've got 25 lessons to get through in this course, and I can kind of map that out. That's not how this is going to be. It's going to be more of a traditional structure like you've experienced in remote 2.0 or last year in in-person of, all right, kids, let's take a look at the week. Here's what we're going to do in math this week. Here's what we're going to do in ELA, social studies, and science. And so there'll be probably a big picture overview, and then broken down, into smaller chunks of assignments. In terms of what folks need to do, I'm going to go back to the presentation here. So again, and this is the same, this is K to 12. So if I want to return to in-person learning, in my email, there's this says submit this form. You click on the form. It looks like this. It says return to in-person learning. It's going to ask you for your email address, your student's name, grade level, building, and then you are selecting, yes, I confirm that I want my child to return to in-person learning on September 21st. So if you're a solo parent and you want your child to come back to school, you fill out this survey. It should look like this. And if you've already done that, great. If not, you have until tomorrow at 4 p.m. to complete it. It can be found under the Parent Communication tab on our website or in the email that I sent yesterday. If you want to enroll in Solo, again, a sentence similar will be in my email. You'll get to this registration with pencils on it. You'll add it. There'll be a few pages that you'll have to add a handful of informational points on. And this is due for our middle school and high school parents tomorrow by 4 p.m. Our elementary parents by Monday at 4 p.m. Again, just to reiterate, if you're uncomfortable because you want to see the restart guide and have more than a day to look at it, or you're just not sure right now, you can wait. So we can have everything ready for you. The sooner that you can submit your request, the better for us to make sure that we're ready to go and it's a seamless transition. So you will complete this one. If you already completed this, when it was sent out originally on September 4th, there's nothing you need to do. It's already there. We got you in the system. We'll be moving you to Solo 2.0. This is only for the people that haven't done anything. So that's the survey that you need to complete. If you're K to 5 and you want to go Solo to Solo 2.0, or you're in remote 2.0 and you want to go to Solo at any level, or Solo 2.0 at the elementary level. So that's what you have to do there. And then again, if you're in Solo and staying, or if you're in remote 2.0 and coming back to in-person, there's nothing else you need to do. We're good to go. We'll see you on the 21st in our blended learning schedule, and then on the 28th for full 5 days a week in person, as long as the data continues to support that. So Aaron, anything else that's coming, or have we covered the Solo specific questions?
There's one more that just came in. With Solo 2.0, will they have to be printing out materials that are posted on the Google Classroom? Or, let me change the wrap text here. Printed material, since digital isn't always conducive for younger emerging writers. So should they expect to be printing and doing a lot of that, or can they expect paper copies, or maybe the use of Cami?
Yeah, so we've tried in remote 2.0 to reduce the need for anybody to print anything off. It's all been able to be done, online. If we need to support families with printed copies, we can provide those printed copies for you. Or like Aaron said, Cami is a software program where it creates editable documents online that were previously PDFs or other documents. So No, you don't. If you're in Solo 2.0, or you don't have to worry about printing off a ton of stuff. If you need it, we can give you access. We can print it off, and you can come pick it up. But the majority of it can be completed online. And don't forget, with Solo 2.0, it's Strongsville City Schools curriculum. So everything that you have, whether it's a foundations workbook or a math workbook or writing pages, what have you, you'll have all of that accessible because you'll have all of the materials, and that's what the teachers will be using at home. Erin, anything to add to that?
No, if you can just reiterate that you're going to have another one of these next week to address all of the questions that we didn't do today.
Right. So as we get ready for in-person learning on the 21st, we will have another community conversation. It will be Thursday, which is September 17th at same time, 5:30 p.m. The focus of that will be to highlight some important points of our responsible restart plan, and then open it up to answer any questions that folks may have beyond Solo. So, we can definitely, I know there's a lot of questions or details people want to know about all the specifics of quarantining and exposure and clinics and all the other details that go along with the health and safety and parental protocols and transportation and food services. We've got all of that answered. Again, all of that has been answered and shared, but this is a nice consolidated document that you'll be able to utilize, and that will be sent to you early in the day on Monday. So yes, Thursday, September 17th, 5:30 p.m. We will send out the links in my Monday communication, and then we'll go from there. So I appreciate everybody joining me this evening, asking your thoughtful questions. We know this is challenging, and please understand, I know there's some areas of this that I presented that we just disagree on. And I just want you to know that we may disagree, but we have the same goal of ensuring that our kids get the best possible educational experience they can, no matter in what structure that is. And we will continue to look at our structure, and just like we did with Solo 2.0 with K-5, look at where we can enhance, improve within the parameters that we are able to do so successfully. So if you have friends or neighbors that weren't able to watch this, again, shortly after we're done here, it will be online at the same place where you clicked to live stream, so you can watch it at any time. So again, appreciate your partnership, appreciate you being here and your questions, and I hope everybody has a great evening.